So when we play this demo, we're going to look at a couple of important things here. Okay, so when, again, the moment you omit the visuals, all the stuff, all the mistakes start to appear. Because that's the other detriment to looking at reference and keeping reference the entire time you're animating. You're relying on looking at your reference, and you're being convinced that what your motion is going through is what that reference is giving you. So there's this huge artistic mishap where the artist starts to look at the reference versus what is actually there. And you're looking at it. We're watching here and we're like, oh, everything kind of acts out fine except a couple of herky-jerky moves, but it looks good. And then you hit play here and all of a sudden it looks not good. Like all that emotion is lost, right? And it comes back again to two things. One is relying on the emotion too much, looking at the reference too much, and the other thing is the poses. The poses are not locked on to what they need to be. Like, and then we're also going to talk about composure here, because from here to here is Super Saiyan levels of speed. If I look at my graph editor, it's also a tangent thing. This is a block tangent, so that when I open this up, there's actual motion there. And that's where we're going to need to reconcile the motion stuff there. Okay? But anyway, a lot of great things, but let's fix this. So the first look here is he's right there. So when he's doing he's right there, he's pointing at like 50 different things. So we've covered this already. We want consistency. So in order to find consistency, let's just find one pose. And it's this pose, which is the strongest one. We're going to middle mouse that to your first pose. So we middle mouse that. Let's see, there's probably some rotation. Let's see. Oh, no, there isn't. Okay, sorry. And I'm just marquee selecting my controllers. It's laggy. Shouldn't be like this. What's going on?
Yeah, this one is kind of heavy.
Yeah. So lesson here, Jimena too, like she brought it up. Don't work with crazy rigs. Like why? Why are you guys like trying to carry stones when I'm just asking you guys to juggle pebble, right? If the rig is super heavy, don't animate with them. There's so many other characters you can work with, okay? So, for now, let's just, it is what it is. But, oh, when I cleaned it up too much. Like, I took out a little bit of a movement, so I guess I'll just kind of resurrect it just by finding it. But basically, the moral of the story here is change the silhouette so that it looks like he's pointing, and there's enough of that. There's enough gesture there, I think. And you see that? Like he lifts, and what you also want is probably reinforce it by pointing the shoulder outwards. And you're like, well, Chad, we're losing the silhouette there. What's going on, buddy? Point the shoulder in, and then point the elbow out. And what that effectively does is it creates this subtle movement of the arm or the hand moving closer to you. He's right there. If your rig allows, I actually take the liberty to animate a little bit of motion, like forward motion, just to jut that forward a bit. And then here, when he's right there, I fold it a slight bit just to kind of like give that, you see that, like hand flicking motion? just to really reinforce that audio cue. He's right there, like, because if we're trapped to this finger pointing at you the whole time, the crux of this is really us being attracted to that finger and to the hand. So because of that, I'm going to give that hand a lot more activity than what we currently have. And we do that just by making it flow down a bit when the arms lift up, and then we lift it so that we could point it towards audience right there. Like that. That's a little over much there, but that's my kind of like my point there. Like, add a little bit more of these subtle moves so that it punctuates there, okay? So then the next move is like this sudden pop to the next motion. And when your animation suddenly pops like this is from your tangents. Like, you keyframe this, and then you have a blocked tangent there. So you want to start opening this up using automatic tangents so that he moves from one pose to the other. So when we look here, this is a bad look on the shoulders. One is he's Dwight Howard here, and then one is he's just a normal guy here. So be consistent with your shoulder poses here. And that's a product of you being locked onto this pose here, which is nice and appropriate. This is strong. But you need to find a way to relax those shoulders down there, right? So you could do that by either manually reposing your guy, because I couldn't find any pose where he normalizes. So I'm just going to find, take the time to basically fix this. And yeah, on my end, like, I would already be finding a new character instead of waiting for this control system to kick in. This is not going to feed your creativity at all. Like, anything that takes your time away from actually doing these things, you should just dump them. They're not what you should be working with. There's no, like, I'm going to wait to deal with this controller because it's the best looking character ever. On your end, Denzel, if you really wanted to, you could get the geo and rig this in Advanced Skeleton. Like,
yeah, I was going to use my rig for the thesis, but I still had to rig it. I tried to use it in Human Arcade, and it was
yeah, no, and no. Okay, yeah. Don't juggle rocks when you can juggle pebbles, because you guys are learning how to juggle. There's no, like, trying to work with heavy assets. It's just not a thing. The one thing I'm going to do too is, like, unify your tangents, because, like, a lot of this pops in and out. So you just want to select everything and just set it to automatic tangent for now. We'll talk about advanced tangents later down the road. But you just want to be able to use moving holds to keep your poses in check or in line. But anyway, so we have our posing here. He's right there. So this, if you watch the reference, he maybe does it so quick. And with Denzel, he's like, I'm going to really lower him. Two good thoughts. It might be a good idea to actually lower him. For him here, he just gesturally, like, does that, right? So this and this is not, like, yeah, this is where the whole this is where we're going to talk about two things. Do we follow reference for reference here, or do we creatively, like, strengthen the pose here? Cassandra did that for hers, but in a more subtle fashion. On paper, I would say no. I would say no, do not do this extreme of a pose and copy what his bend is a little bit better. Like this, like that pose is basically that bend pose right there. This is what you want, okay? But if you are kind of married to this, there's another discussion where you would space this out, where you would actually dip a lot earlier in order to give the speed a bit, to slow down the speed. But to answer the question here, let us refer to this strong pose here, because this is still strong enough, and this is based on the reference. I'm going to use this pose, 166. and use it to replace this pose. As strong as this looks, it's very off here because it happens so fast. You see how he pops upward so quickly? So I'm going to use a pose that's more close to this main key pose here, but still as strong at 166. And I'm going to middle mouse that to frame 164. So again, 166, middle mouse 164, hit S. And this rig will take some time. You still get that jerk upwards, but it's a little bit more composed. And it's still a bit too poppy, so I'm going to actually give this a bit more space. You can't beat the beast. I'm going to move this keyframe, here, to be a bit later. Like around 1, yeah, I'm going to take this out, delete this. I'm just creating space between that strong motion there. Probably move it 2 frames. 1 or 2 frames will literally make the difference. So let me move that by 2 frames. Come on. I already moved it 1 frame, so I'm just moving it 1 more frame. Won't even move. It's stubborn. Okay, there we go. Yeah. And then when he pops up here, this is such a strong look that you don't want to be floating from pose to pose here. You can even decide, you're like, hey, this pose is better. It doesn't matter. As long as you're locked into one strong pose and then stretch it. So instead of having 1 keyframe here, I want 2 keyframes that take up this real estate here. That'll give me my moving hold and reinforce that strong look. You want to pause your look there. So that's the other difference from using reference to the other, because when you use reference, you're floating from one pose to the other. And again, because you keep looking at reference, it looks like it's smoothing it out for you. You need to take your own poses and smooth them out yourself, basically. So what I'm going to do here is, I like this pose. I'm going to keyframe that to 170. I already pressed S. I'm just waiting for Maya to kick in. And in here, I want to create that moving hold so that he has a little bit of real estate here to keep that pose. So watch what happens. You see that? It almost goes to the cadence of you can't. When he says can't, he's locked into this. This is your can't look. And then he goes, beat the beast. So that's how you start to reconcile these things, where now you have stronger performance while still capturing the essence of this reference. Because you've already shown to me that if you copy pose for pose what your reference is, it still doesn't capture it. Somehow your poses float around and flit about. So this is where you start to branch out from that reference. See that? Even still, that still exists somehow. Like, it still made it. So we're gonna get that keyframe, delete that keyframe. As much as we love it, that's what we want. If anything, I'm just gonna make a slight adjustment so that his eyeballs, it's taking too long. But anyway, I want his eyeballs to be trained towards us. That's what will keep this pose looking like he's looking at us. So it's important. Eyeline. Yeah, this is taking forever, so I'm not going to go to the lengths of fixing that pose, but you guys get the idea now, right? And we're still stuck. Alright, let's look for other thoughts here. So again, this pops from one pop. Not good, right? So how do we do that? We find a strong pose here, and then we delete the rest. So we're strong. Can't beat the beast. Like this pose here is good. Middle mouse that to 210, 201, and that should be your moving hold here. This should be like your established you can't beat the beast pose. One could argue you could just fold his arm slightly so that it's right to heart. And you do that by finagling the shoulder and then folding the elbows inwards and then countering the wrist to be outwards. It's kind of weird how a lot of our lectures here is a lot of pointing and a lot of like touching the chest. Have you guys noticed that? Look at the difference now. This is our new pose, and this is the reference pose. Here he has hip problems, and here he has emotional problems. Which one are you going to choose for your acting pose? I would defer to what teacher says. That's a strong pose. You can't beat the beast. And then when he lowers, you see a lot of these popping movements. So once we locked our ever all-important pose here, let's find the next one. The next chapter of our pose is somewhere here where he's kind of like sunk down. Keyframe that. The rest could kind of go away. Like this pop here will need to go away. And then he pops up here to do this swing. So when he swings, that's another major one. So we want to clean that up. So now I'm deleting these. I know that this is the beginning of the swing. The beginning of the swing is also important. So we need that. And then here, the bottom one here is when he dips to swing. So we want that too. This rig's killing me right now. I'm going to kill you, Denzel, if you use this rig ever again. Oh, we're still stuck. Okay. And the reason this is good, the reason you want to swing him out here, right? You swing his shoulders. You deny. You hide the weapon. You hide his shoulders. You almost make his hand disappear. But not in a I'm in a sling kind of manner. There's still a little bit of like some gesture there, but it is tucked away and hidden. Like you hide his shoulder. Because that shoulder is the catalyst for that swing. So as he swings, what you actually want to do is jut out the chest earlier. The spine goes earlier. And the clavicle sinks behind. Clavicle's here for this rig. And the arm here actually swings a little bit earlier. This is all from our mechanics class. Okay? You do a pre-arm swing here. And then this guy, this arm's still tucked in. Keep him subtle as much. And how you imply the swing here is you raise one shoulder. Okay, so one last move, as I presumed correctly. The moment I hit record, Rob's gonna come in knocking. And that's all on video. Okay, so our one last bit here is making sure that this swing is done as properly as we can make it. So there's a bunch of things we've done already, right? We've pivoted the chest inwards here. We've tucked away the right shoulder so that we can introduce the left shoulder upwards and swing it to screen right. And the arms flaring here supplements that energy. While our shoulder here on the right is still tucked in here, but with a little bit of a flare there. So there's a little bit of a curvature there in order to feed and foreshadow this curving motion that we're going to have. And I'm obviously just making sure that the wrist isn't like in a weird looking thing like this. Yeah, that's one of the biggest things that you guys need to watch out for. Wrist to elbow relationship. So when he does swing, his swing actually needs to carry the momentum of that shoulder. So now the right shoulder needs to be more dominant. And that's how we portray that. Okay? We're going to arc that so that it's not this terrible looking straight line of an arm here. We're going to manufacture that arc mid-swing here by pointing the shoulders down. If you're lazy, you actually can break here, but I don't do that. I don't like breaking joints if I can help it. I want to understand proper mechanics here and lower the shoulder in order to get me this angle here. And same with the wrist. The wrist could slightly fold in like so. So you start to see how we're creating the same movement based on the reference, reacting to the energy of the voice, but coming up with something that fits it more appropriately, if that's the term. So obviously this stray little swing back here no longer bears relevance. So time to start cleaning stuff out. So you see how our little swing there begins to be a little bit more energetic in a sense. But we're still making corrections here. We do a counter rotation and we fold that in there. I'm counter rotating this vector here to basically start to even out my shoulders. Or you know what? One can argue actually you can raise this a bit more and then rotate them more. It's up to you how you want to do that swing. It all depends on how much you study the emotions of him. But for now, I'm picking one or the other. They're both kind of okay in this regard. But I'm still making sure that there's an arc. There's an arcing nature to the way that hand and the arm is portrayed. So I'm always finding a shape so that the silhouette always opens up. So here I'm going to ever so slightly come away from that silhouette here. This is that one bit where we kind of slightly break protocol, right? Because it's important that we have the arc illustrated like an up and over move. So you see that? You see that wave where he sucks it from the chest, brings it down to the hips. We need an improvement there. We need an improvement there. And then he brings it up and swings it all the way around. So there's this idea of circular motion. And Maya doesn't give you that inherently. Maya's always, even when you rotate, it's still left to right, like this way, that way, right? You got to start thinking about a ball. When you rotate your character, it doesn't just rotate this way. It sets up from, if I'm going to rotate this way, it dips down first, and then twists this way, and then dips upwards, and then tilts that way, and then swings that way, and then finishes off by swinging back down, tilting back down, countering this way, and then the shoulders coming back to the status quo. Like stuff like that. Those are things that you need to force Maya to do. It doesn't just come from rotating one axis and being okay with that. And that's what we just saw previously. When Denzel was doing these rotations, he was just kind of like contentedly picking one rotation over the other, just being okay with just this. But now you know, you need to start harnessing this and that as the afterthought. Your Y rotation is still the primary rotator, but it needs to be supplemented by these things. So your follow through here is that you want to dip his entire body down a bit. So that's where we're going to have him. So we're going to lower our center of gravity. And if you see here, once you start bending your character this way, this isn't natural either. So you need to start spreading out that bend throughout the spine. Okay, so I'm going to rotate that and then open up the chest so that he has a little bit more breathing space there. If you see here now, the arm starts to still be upwards. We don't want him stuck in this upper arm, upper shoulder kind of position. We want to start to lower him this way. And this plays into the dynamic of him picking his body back up to rotate your way again. You want to lower that shoulder and then bring that shoulder towards him. Let me just look at his emotions there, and then we're gonna finish my thoughts there. Let's see. He does the swing, and then he keeps it in. Oh, we're missing the bump later. Okay, so So he does his swing, but when you swing it after, he tucks it in like this. So this is an awkward shoulder look, because you should already have spent the shoulders coming upwards with this swing. So in your follow through, you want the shoulder to start relaxing, and you do that by grabbing your clavicle. Somewhere here in the ether, it's this triangle looking thing. And lowering that, although it's not giving me that. So you have to do this. You have to get the clavicle here, I believe, in order to relax that shoulder. Still having a hard time doing that. Yeah, I don't quite know about this rig where the real clavicle rotation is. But the idea here is to basically start to relax the shoulder. And then here, the elbow tucks in. We still want the shoulder to be high up here, because that's the energy. Okay? So basically you want to end up in this key pose here and then hold it. As we already know in our moving hold demo, just have a keyframe here. This is awesome. This one right here. You want to keep this in this look and scrap everything else. So here I'm going to middle mouse this look here to the end here. And I'm going to wait. Then I'm going to middle mouse this look to somewhere around here. And that way we can accomplish a stronger moving hold. Moving holds are basically selecting your strong poses and creating two keyframes between them so that they share that real estate. You see how they hog this area now. They're saying, hey, we're going to be like this same looking pose, just a bit varied from each other. That's how your moving hold should be. Okay, so just obviously clean that up. Everything's so poppy here. It needs some cleaning up. I think this keyframe is weaker, so I'm going to take that out. But I want to take us to that shoulder bump. Huh? So this is a little too expressive. It looks like he's more like doing a Michael Jackson move here. You see that? Like, that's a bit too much, obviously. So this is the animator trying to overexpress his or herself, trying to overexpress the character in order to generate a sense of energy. And this shouldn't be the philosophy behind generating energy for you guys. Instead, create drama and energy by simply creating subtle movements that are really tight in timing. So the subtle adjustment here really is here to here, without the Michael Jackson lights. Okay? So if I identify that, if I just say, hey, let the focus be solely on the shoulders and the chest, going, huh? And prevent all the other distracting elements here, like the lower legs. That should be the beginning of my thought process. And being as such, I will now take my strategy to the next step, which is take away the step. Once this rig kicks back in, I will do just that. Huh? Still taking a bit, so I guess a good sip of coffee is in order. Coffee. Okay. Just go on and select the lower legs and basically just lock it. Like, let's just keep these legs. Middle mouse that to that, and then delete everything else. Check it. See, we're locked in our legs. So now this is nice. Very neutral. Very telling. There's still an arch in the spine. This is good. Like this, not all good poses need to be like that. This is a really good pose. Very neutral, and you see it in the demeanor of his face. Neutral poses are just as important as your extreme poses because that's what creates that drama. So when he does do this, all you need to do is harness a little bit of that jerk. Not go super dance move there. So I like this jerk here, like right there. That's probably as far as I'm willing or wanting to take it. Set a keyframe there. If these things kind of blow your mind, like these kind of thought process, write it down. Be like at line, huh? punctuate that and say like frame 265. Like just put that in your notes. Put that in Notepad. That way it's your guide to be like, all of these, they're not really that relevant anymore. Well, these are relevant. Like this is the transition to the huh. But this is what you want your key pose to be. And then these guys, after the fact, are not relevant. So you could either middle mouse here or identify that this is the pose that you wanted and you want to hold it there. Grab this, copy, paste it onto this timeline. These are not relevant. Delete that. And now all we need to do is find a slight motion here so that we create our moving hold, right? I'm just talking because I'm waiting for this to get deleted. But this is your moving hold moment here. From here to here. This is the huh, and he holds that pose for us to really get married to that look. It's all about finding the punctuating audio cues and then creating a moving hold for it. So I'm going to set my tangents to automatic first. That way it's flat line. See, it's flat. Huh? So it goes here, and then I'm just going to look for something here, like a slight gesture there. Just that good. That good amount. One frame after, and then middle mouse 273 to 272, middle mouse that and press S. Now you're going to have your subtle moving hold there. You see how he's like still frozen, but there's a slight piece of movement. But that huh kind of feels more like he saw a ghost. So I don't want to hold him too much. I'm just going to decide like, hey, that hold should only be like this long. And then I want him to start returning to some other pose. Now this is just like wisdom based on experience, obviously. I'm not going to like, you know, you guys will kind of discover how you find your moving holds. Like how you're going to realize yourselves like where that moving hold should be and where it shouldn't be. This is one of those like instinct things where you'll discover that the more we do these exercises. Time to wait. And what I want is to actually return him to here. This is how I want my huh to end. This is the extreme, and I want him to come back to here. Back to 264. So I have my moving hold here, right? You see it in the graph editor. I want to grab this and put it somewhere here to status quo. 270. So I'm going to middle mouse that. Or you can copy paste, but I can middle mouse this to 270, press S, and that effectively copies that keyframe there. So you see how he like, huh? Like there's a little bit of that jerk back to his original pose, but I want to hold that pose now. So I'm going to hold that pose all the way here, and then delete this middle one. So to answer the question there are two moving holds. One moving hold is this. He's locked in for a little bit. There's a slight movement. And then he returns here just for us to rest on that. And then the moving hold's there. There's movement in the legs, so that's something you need to check. Make sure you select everything and make sure everything is on automatic tangent. So if there's still movement, then make sure you just kind of like pin that. Set a keyframe here. Middle mouse that. Set a keyframe to 270 so that just locks it in place. So there's still some movement there. So then what you do is look for that controller and see what's going on there. So I think it's a FK-IK switch there because I don't see.
Try to uncheck the all on unused unused control inside the display layers.
That's a good one. So where is it? Here?
Yeah, right on top. Yeah, right
this
there.
one? Yeah.
Yeah,
that's good for Denzel to actually identify these. These are gonna start like. I mean, you're learning. This is great. Somewhere in here, there's probably like an unused control, and yeah, you see that. Like once the moment I reselect it, there are these stray controllers now that are part of the system. So you don't want those. Although I think 270 was a major keyframe, right? Did I just? Yeah, I did. I think by error deleted that, but we can get it back. As soon as Maya kicks back in, and then we'll finish my thoughts. on this, on a 35-minute lecture. Come on, man. So we already know. We still know that is still somewhere here. Copy that to 270. Hit S. And then to create, or to avoid, or to prevent this little locked in here, just pick the frame before it, middle mouse 270 again, and now you have your slight moving hold there. That's all this is. Just so when we play it, so it's still dirty and floaty, but it's much cleaner than what Denzel had with like popping poses and indecisive looks. It still needs a lot more clarifying and clearing out, like the legs, like the hidden controllers that we failed to do. Just start to clean that up. But essentially, what we're looking for here is a cleaner rendition that is very similar to the reference, but has its own identity based on how we're mechanically animating, right? So I think I deleted a major. I'm just going to grab the legs there. I'm just doing this because I'm being irked by it. Like, I don't necessarily need to fix it, but it just bothers me so much to see that leg kind of strafely move about. I just want to keep it to that leg position. I'm just using my middle mouse. Just grabbing the leg area, middle mouse that. Yeah, I just wanted that foot to be planted so that when he pivots, it reads a lot better. Okay, so the other thing you should do in your homework, and for you guys, add these little gestures. Like when he says, "You can't beat the beast," add a bit of a chest thump in there. This is your opportunity, and it's okay because look how dead it is here. Look how flat this is. That means there's really no motion here besides your moving hold. You see, it just stands there. So what you want to do is like add a little bit of a chest thump, and a chest thump comes in a form of a little bit of shoulder, a little bit more on your elbow, and a lot of bit more on your wrist. Grab those three. 1, 2, 3. Copy that first frame. So you have your mechanical chest thump first. So we're going to go through the mechanics first, okay? So we get your copy paste. We'll do a double chest thump. 1, 2, 3. And now we add. We just need to get that timing. That's more like too fast, right? So we're going to extend that. Double click, right click, snap. Or if you're smart, you right click here and just make sure auto snap keys are on. So we'll check timing again. Okay, so it looks like he taps one too much for my liking, so I'm going to take away that and that. And I just want him to tap ever so slightly twice. Yeah, we can't beat the beast. This is okay. This I want you guys to start thinking of, because it's still within the parameters of the original pose, so to speak. We're just adding a little bit more of this creative flair to it, but not us acting it out, right? This is still within the realm and sphere of what we're looking for. So now just the final stuff here is just offsetting the timing, adding the wrist rotation here, so that when he thumps his chest, there's a little bit of that wrist flick. And then as the wrist leaves, you're going to have an offset. This is a little bit more advanced. You're okay to sort of like just leave it what you have. Just make sure you offset by every 1 frame. So I'm selecting the wrist there, selecting by 1 frame, including to select the elbows. Select both elbows and offset that by 1 frame also. And that'll give you that kind of like that overflowing movement that we're looking for. Subtle to see here, but very evident in my angle. So I'm going to save this file for you guys to kind of study and break down. Oh, it's pretty smooth on you guys' video too. You see that? You feel like it's artificial, but at least it's like, it's doing that instead of like Instead of doing that, you're doing this. And this is strong. One last underappreciated element that Denzel added here. It's the eyes. Just by closing that a slight bit, adds everything to the character. Contrast of the face. Like, this is stuff we will cover when we do our facial animations. You're not obligated to animate face, but if you're Nat or Denzel, you want to experiment, learn, feel free to do so, and it helps here. It enhances it tremendously. This is a huge look. This is an awesome look. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Good video, blah, blah, blah. Goodbye.